So in this video, what we're going to be doing is taking a matrix and finding its reduced row echelon form using the Gauss-Jordan method. Now, what I want to point out here is that there are multiple paths between a matrix and its reduced row echelon form. I'm following a particular path here. You are welcome to do whatever you want to or need to get to that form, so long as all of your row operations are valid. Now, I have a matrix written here, and I notice that I already have a leading 1 in the first row. So what I really want to do is to make everything below that leading 1 a 0. And so my first step here is going to take -2 times the first row, add it to the second row, and store that into the second row. When I do that, my first row will of course remain unchanged, and then we'll note that -1 times 2 plus 2 is 0, which is the 0 I want, and then we can continue on with the other steps. And then the last two rows are going to be unchanged. So we have -0, -3, 9, -11, and -1, 1, 1, 7. Alright? Then I'm looking again and say, alright, I already have a 0 there, so there's nothing I need to do here. I need to get rid of this 1, or this -1 here. Well, that's fairly straightforward. I can just take the first row and add it to that last row. So I'm going to take the first row, add it to the last row, and store that into the last row. So we want to note, of course, is that the first 3 rows are going to be unchanged by this. 0, 1, -3, 4, 0, -3, 9, -11. And when I take the first row and add it to the last row, I'm going to get 0, 0, 0, -1. And now what we see is that our leading 1 here is in good shape. There's nothing above it, right? And everything below it is a 0. So what I want to do next is take this leading 1 here and make everything below it 0. This is already 0, so nothing to worry about here. I need to get rid of that -3. So in that sense, what I need to do is take 3 times the second row now, add it to the third row, store it into the third row. And if I do this, I'm still going to get the same first row. I'm still going to get the same second row. I'm still going to get the same last row. And what I'm going to get for a third row is a 0 here, a 0 here, a 0 here, and then 12 plus -11 gives me +1 there. Alright? And so now I've successfully made everything underneath this 0. And then there are no values here I can make into a leading 1, because nothing I can multiply or divide 0 by to make it a 1, and I can't add anything to these 2 rows without introducing values below my already good leading 1s here. So this is the next candidate for leading 1, and I just need to get rid of the -1 underneath it. So I can do that by just taking the third row, adding it to the fourth row, storing it into the fourth row. And so my first 3 entries are going to be unchanged, or first 3 rows. And I'm just going to have a row of 0s on the bottom. Now we note this one, and that one, they're all good below. This one has nothing above it. So it's now a matter of making these 0s and making that 0, right? So first things first, I'm going to start with the last column and make everything above that 1 a 0 as well. And so the first step there is to take -4 times the third row, add it to the second row, and store it into the second row. And when I do that, I get my 0 row on the bottom, I get my 0, 0, 0, 1 row on the top. Not much changes in the second row, is 0, 1, -3, 0. And then my top row is fine, right? So now the next step is to make that a 0. I can just take 8 times this and add it to that. And so what I'm looking at is take 8 times the third row, add it to the first row, store it into the first row. So once again, we get 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, -3, 0. And then in my top row, just 1, -1, -1, 0. Now we know that that leading one is good, just zeros below it, just zeros above it, so it's in good shape. What I need now then is to deal with this non-zero entry here so that this one can be good as well. And so that is the next step here, which is to take row 2, add it to row 1, and store that into row 1. So once again, we get a 0 row, a almost 0 row, this row here, and finally take the second row and add it to the first. I get 1, 0, -4, 0. And now we notice that this, and this, all of my leading ones are in good shape. Only zeros above and zeros below. And so I have my leading ones descending rightwards, all zeros above, all zeros below. So this matrix here is finally in reduced row echelon form. Alright, thank you.